Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of The Trevor Ohlsen Show, episode number 48, on Wednesday, March 31st, 2021. I am your returning host, Trevor Ohlsen. It's a pleasure to be back. Did you miss me? Oh, did you miss me? I've got a girlfriend, but I like you, and she won't mind what we're about to do. Have you heard the new song, folks? New track out. No, it's good to be back. I'll get to that. Get things set up here. All right. Yes, it's a pleasure to be back, as I'm sure those of you who have been following along with the podcast, you guys were aware that I was gone on a bit of a road trip. The road trip went fantastically. It was excellent. It was very fun. It was really, it was everything I wanted it to be. I'm trying to think of like a cool answer of what to say when people would ask me like how was the road trip, and I came up with the line, something along the lines of, everything I expected, or everything what did I say? Everything I wanted. I don't know. It was something like that. And also I came up with a good line when I was on the road, because I kept getting asked the question, how long are you here for? And I was like, till I feel like leaving. And it was a hit. People were like, I love that. That's great. Also, a common universal response whenever I told people that I was on a 4-week solo road trip, almost everybody responded with, that's so cool. I wish I could do that. And it made me realize just people's desire, people's natural inclination towards curiosity and towards adventure and exploration. And I just always told them, I was like, just go do it. And then a lot of them were women. And so they said, oh, well, it's a little different as a woman, which I can understand as far as like safety and being alone and stuff like that. So it probably is a little bit easier as a man, and as a young man in particular, who's, I don't know, physically capable of defending one's self. I had pepper spray in my vehicle and on my keychain. Almost accidentally pepper sprayed some people, because there's a little knob that easily gets twisted, and if it gets twisted and it gets pressed down, pepper sprays are coming. So, but fortunately, I did not accidentally pepper spray myself or anybody else. But I was indeed prepared. If somebody decided that they were gonna fuck with me, I was ready. So, what should we discuss the trip a bit? I think so. It was 28 days. I can't believe I'm back and doing this, and I've done the trip. I mean, I've been talking to you guys about this road trip for, I think I talked to you guys about it, on and off for a couple months, and I just came to the conclusion that I'm doing it, and then I went off and did it, and it's just weird to be back and to be telling you guys about it now. Let me show you this. Let me see. Get nice up close. New Mexico. I'm ready for the aliens. That was one conclusion of the trip. I'm ready for the aliens. That's for sure. No, I was in Roswell, New Mexico, which, for those of you who aren't aware, was made famous, I believe, if I'm remembering the date correctly, in 1947. Supposedly there was an alien spacecraft that crashed there, and there was a government cover-up, and that's one particular example of how the evidence suggests that it can't all be easily dismissed. It's 2021 and people are still going there. I went to the UFO museum, and it's when it comes to aliens and extraterrestrial life and UFOs, something like 85 to 90% of it can all easily be dismissed by just fallible eyes, and is that a word? Fallible eyes, and just incorrectly seeing something that's easily that's actually understood, or a lot of people with mental illness who are schizophrenic or stuff like that. Yeah, crazy people. There's a lot of crazy people who are into conspiracy theories and aliens, and so you gotta look out for that. There's a lot of shit you gotta sift through, but once you sift through it. There's about 10 to 15% of UFO phenomenon that need to be questioned further and looked at and investigated. And Roswell is one of those cases. And so, of course, I was going to get a little alien. Here, you can see it now that it's not sparkly. There you go. 3 aliens. 3 sparkly aliens. New Mexico, the land of enchantment. So it was 28 days, 15 states, and 7,000 miles, just under 7,000 miles. And I went solo, and it was really, really fantastic. It was much needed, just having not traveled in 2020 and having had a really, what I consider a hyper-disciplined year with regards to my music and my health and everything that I was working on and working towards. I felt that I had accomplished enough and I had earned the trip. And I also just come from a family that doesn't travel, and I have this hunger for travel. And as a adult now, you realize, oh, I can just go off and do it myself. And that's what I did. And so yeah, I do, and I know I would regret not traveling. And so I have definitely I get how when people say you get the bug, COVID-19. No, the travel bug. When you get that, it's like you start traveling, you want to keep going. It's like anything. You get tattoos, you want to get more. You have sex, you want a hooker. Like, I get it, okay? Things spiral, folks. Things spiral out of control. So I for sure am someday, and I actually am, I'm not just saying this, I will go over to Europe, and if my music doesn't bring me there first, I will go over there and just bounce all around. I'll get a ticket on the transit, pay for whatever, 6 months or whatever it is, and just bounce all over Europe. I want to truly, I have to explore the world. I have a hunger for it. And so but first and foremost, I need to keep seeing these beautiful states that, is part of the United States. We have a beautiful country, filled with beautiful people, and I got to experience that firsthand for the last month. A lot of hugs, a lot of smiles, a lot of laughs, a lot of joy, a lot of great conversation. It was great. There was nothing negative that happened along the way. There was one crazy event which I'll tell you guys about, or a couple. But no, my vehicle held up. I had it all tuned up and fixed up before I left, and now and it had zero problems. I got, an oil change in Arizona after I'd gone like 3,000 miles, and I made it the next, close to 4,000 miles home, and no problems, which is good. So let's jump into the trip, shall we? I left on March 1st, and the first couple of days I just wanted to make some headway and get some distance between me and Michigan. And so I got a little bit past Chicago the first day. I should say too that I made a bed in my car, laid down the back seats, made a bed, had a sleeping case, bunch of pillows. And so that way I didn't have to get a hotel. I didn't have to get an Airbnb. If I wanted to, I could get a hotel or an Airbnb, but I didn't feel the need to do that. You can park at rest stops. You can park in RV parks. You can park street parking wherever, as long as it's overnight and free. You can kind of do whatever you want. It's up to you. As long as you feel safe, as long as you feel secure, and that the area you're in is good, you're good to go. So I made a bed in my car, and night one, I slept just a little bit south of Chicago. And that was actually the coldest night I probably slept in my vehicle. It got down to 19 degrees. And so if it's 19 degrees outside, if you're sitting in a vehicle that's not running overnight, it's going to get 19 degrees in the vehicle. And so I slept, that was the coldest night, but I was like super excited, and it was day one. So it's not like I was 4 weeks in and worn out, and then I was like, oh shit, I gotta sleep in fucking 20-degree weather if I'm sleeping in my car tonight. It wasn't like that. I was excited, and I was like, let's give it a shot, and let's see how the sleeping bag holds up. And I slept on and off but I did sleep and I slept well. I didn't expect to sleep great just because I could go to my neighbor's house, and the first time I sleep there, I'm not going to sleep great. Anytime you sleep in a new environment, your brain kind of stays half awake because it doesn't really know what's going on, where we are, and if there's threats or predators or whatever. So you even if you feel like you sleep soundly, your brain is kind of half asleep. Because I'm a neuroscientist. So I got a little bit past Chicago. Next day, I made it to Memphis, Tennessee, and I wanted to hang out there, listen to some blues, take in the city. This was weird. When I rolled up to Memphis, it was a ghost town. Like, I don't know if it was COVID-19 or if it was just the time of day or whatever was going on, but it was a ghost town. There was actually 0 people on the streets. 0. In downtown Memphis. I was looking around. I'm like, this is fucking eerie. It was eerie. And I was like, that's really weird. And so I think I went to I did. I went and worked out at a gym. And then it was like 8 o'clock, and I made my way back to Beale Street. So Beale Street it's the touristy sort of area in downtown Memphis. A lot of blues music, BB King shit up, BB King bar, restaurant place. It's a cool little street. It's like Broadway in Nashville, but not as flashy. And also the police presence was preposterous. I mean, there was cop cars everywhere. And so I'm going to just stay I'm going to stay right in this street. And it's funny too, because I looked it up later, and I just typed in, is Memphis, Tennessee safe? And it just kept, a big headline popped up. It said, Memphis, Tennessee, the most dangerous city in the South. I was like, oh, wow, okay. Good start. And I found out later that half the places I went to, were dangerous. But I mean, where there's people, there's danger. So you can't be afraid of that. Just be smart. And but I went to this blues bar in downtown Memphis, and funny enough, I ran into there was this dude sitting down at a table. He was by himself. I was like, I'll see if this dude, if I can join this dude. Sat down. I was like, hey man, mind if I join you? He's like, no, dude. We started chatting. His name is Tim, and funny enough, he was also on a solo road trip, and he was going from New York out to California. So this was, 2 days in, and I run into this guy doing the same thing, and we end up watching the band, which was awesome. We watched the band, and we were just hanging out, and we just had a great time and connected. And really connected. We had a great time, and he was nice at the end, because he had asked where I had been sleeping. I was like, I slept in my car last night, and I was like, I'll just probably do that again. And he was like, hey man, if you want, you can crash, in my, on the spare, on the pullout in the hotel room. He's like, I don't think you're gonna murder me. And I was like, well, good, because I don't think you're gonna murder me. So we trusted each other, and nobody got murdered, which is good. Which is great, actually. It's great when nobody gets murdered. And so I spent the night at in the hotel room, which was nice to have a bed. And we woke up the next morning. We had lunch. I can't remember where it was, but I had gumbo for the first time, and blues music was playing, and I had gumbo and catfish. So I was like, all right, like I'm in it. This is why I'm here. And then him and I went to Graceland together as well, and then of course we exchanged info and everything, and we've actually kept in touch throughout the trip, and I imagine that we're actually friends, which is great. So Tim, great meeting you, dude, and nice guy. He's like, if you ever want to come out to New York, you've got a place. And I said the same thing with Michigan, and he was a good dude. And so like 2 days in, made a new friend, which is great. And so from Memphis, I cruised to Jackson, Mississippi. I should say too about Memphis, like it made perfect sense why blues was so prominent there, because the struggle and the poverty and the adversity, it was all so tangible. So I noticed that it was rough. It was rough around the edges, but in a very beautiful way, which I came to appreciate. because I was able to fucking leave. No, it was nice. I had a great time. And like I said, it makes sense that the blues started there, man. Or, the blues were a central part there. So from there, I cruised to Jackson, Mississippi, slept on, it was it was called the Barnett Reservoir. I'm missing the first part of the name, but this big, beautiful lake reservoir. Woke up to the sun shining, gorgeous. 3 days in, beautiful way I basically just slept in Jackson, Mississippi. And I downloaded this app. Also, if any of you guys are looking to travel, I recommend downloading this app called iOverlander. And it's a map of the United States. And basically, if you zoom in wherever you are, you're going to see little green dots that are marked locations of where fellow travelers have stayed. So it could be an official campsite. It could be an unofficial campsite, which is what I did. I parked just on a lake, it wasn't a campsite, but I just spent the night there. Or it might be street parking. It could be anything. It's really meant for, I was going to say it's meant for RVs, but there's a lot of RV stuff on there, but really it's just, I use it for finding places to sleep overnight. And so I slept there, I got up, and then from Jackson, Mississippi, I cruised on down to Baton Rouge. And it was funny with Baton Rouge. I just rolled up wherever my phone took me. I never knew where I was going to end up. I just ended up where I ended up, and that's how I wanted to do it. And so I rolled up right downtown, got out, start walking around, and I'm looking around at all the different restaurants and all the different people, and I walk around the block, and I see this oyster bar, and mainly I went in there because there was a bunch of cute waitresses. And so I sat down at the bar. There's this woman to my left. I introduce myself to her. We start talking, and I ask her what she did, and she explained to me that she was a yoga instructor. And so I was like, "Oh, cool." And she's like, "Oh, yeah. I'm teaching a class right outside the oyster bar here in 10 minutes if you'd like to join us." And I was like, "Okay." So 10 minutes into rolling up to Baton Rouge, I'm doing group yoga with 40 women. I'm in the front row enjoying myself. It was great. It really was. It was fantastic. And then I met a big group of them afterwards, and we all went back to the oyster bar, and we had oysters and drinks until like 3 a.m. It was a great time. And that sort of thing just happened throughout the whole trip. The whole trip was me cruising up to an area, introducing myself to the local people, having the local foods, the local drinks, and that's what it was about, and it was great. And then, so from Baton Rouge, I cruised on over to New Orleans, and it was the culture there. If you've never been, I mean, the culture and again, the soul. It was just tangible. It was so full. It was vibrant and full of life, and it's its own universe down there, man. There's dancers and there's painters and there's musicians. I don't think I'd want to live there, but I mean, as far as seeing, or being there, man, it was just, especially for the first time being there, it was beautiful. I rolled up. I had my tarot. Is that how you say that? Tarot cards. Had my tarot cards read at a voodoo shop in downtown New Orleans, which was total bullshit. It wasn't accurate. She's like, "You have an addictive personality." I was like, "No, not really." And maybe I do. I don't know. But I approached it with an open mind, and she just was saying stuff, and she's like, "I'm a witch," and I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, "Okay," and she's like, she kept getting fucking people calling her on her cell phone during our session, which I paid $50 for, which is like 15 minutes. But I was like, "I'm here. I'm gonna do it." So, but anyway. I did the whole downtown Jackson Square. I went, aquarium. I walked all over. I had a bunch of I ate at different restaurants. I think it was called the Gumbo Shop that I ate at, which was great. And for the first few days, I was really hungry because I was snacking and eating less. And so that was really the first day that I had a big meal, and I had like this 4-course. Everything from, starting off with gumbo to the main course to dessert afterwards. It was great. And from there, so I'm hanging out downtown New Orleans, and it's about 10 o'clock, And I was ready to call it a night because I was getting tired, but I was like, no, dude, you're here. You got to just enjoy yourself. And I should state as well that, whatever it is, that 1.8 mile stretch of Bourbon Street that's famously known down there, I mean, there had to have been 10,000 people. I mean, shoulder to shoulder for 2 miles. I mean, it was thousands. There was probably 10,000 people there. And this is by the way, what you had to do in order to walk in. You had to put your mask on, but as soon as you walked in, you could take it off. Because you could see into all the bars and all the restaurants, and you could look right in and clearly see that nobody's wearing a mask. And yet they'd be like, you need a mask on to enter. And the bodyguard, whatever, they'd be standing outside with a mask on, and you'd enter in and you just take it off. I was like, the illogicality of the fucking masks is preposterous. But anyway, so it's around 10 o'clock, and I'm watching this group of drummers, these 9 teenage drummers, clearly. They were quite young. And man, they were awesome. I mean, they would kick ass if it was like a high school band competition. Like, these guys were killing it, and they were just feeling, you could see it. And they were doing these dances that were like sexual. I was like, oh my God, they're just openly expressing their sexuality. I was like, I can't even do that. Like, these kids are doing it. And everyone was doing it down there, man. Different world than up here, at least. And they were doing the routine, and it was really great, and it was fun and energetic. And I watched them for about a half an hour. And then their routine kind of sort of came to an end, and there was a bit of a halt, and then there was like a slight commotion, but there were so many people that you couldn't tell what was going on. And then all you hear is pop, and it was a gunshot. And so I started running along with most everybody else. And then as most people are running, we hear another pop. And so that really solidified it for everybody. So now everybody's running because there was just gunshots. And it was completely reactionary and instinctual. There was no thought to it at all. But all of a sudden I was just sprinting away from the gunshots. And I watched this poor woman fall in front of me. And I was like, I'm sure she got trampled, but I just like NFL'd my way around her. And I was like, I'm not dying for you, bitch. But no, I got around the corner and I was like, what kind of a man am I? Like, just existential questions. But I kept running, and I ran for like 2 more blocks, got down, and then I walked the rest of the way to my car, which was about 5 blocks away. And I looked it up the next day, dude, and there was this Florida woman, classic Florida woman. She pulled out a gun and shot two teenagers. And I'm sure it was the drummers. It had to have been, because they were the only teenagers there. It's late at night on Bourbon Street. The rest of people are mainly adults. There was some children out though too. I was like, this is not safe. Like I said, crazy place, beautiful though. And fortunately, both those kids look like they're recovering and they're not going to die, so which is great. But yeah, so I was a little shook up. I called Shane, and I was like, hey dude, and I just kind of explained it to him, and he kind of calmed me down and talked me through it. And he reminded me, he's like, hey, if where are you staying? I was like, I don't know. I was going to sleep in my car, but I don't feel like too safe anymore. And he's like, just get a hotel. And I was like, oh yeah, I can do that. And so I drove about 8 miles out of the city and got a hotel that night. But yeah, man, Bourbon Street's the Wild West. Definitely still would recommend going there and checking it out. But you just have to be smart and be safe. So from there, I was going to maybe stick around another day, but the shooting kind of made me want to keep moving. So I cruised on over to Holly Beach, Louisiana, and this is way on the West Coast, close to Texas. And I didn't realize this, but I just wanted to see the coast and see the beach. And when I got there, there was a lot of damage still from Hurricane Laura, if I'm remembering correctly. It was something to see. I mean, there was these beautiful beach houses, and there was just tons of damage. So I didn't stay there, but I did. I'm glad I went and checked it out. And it was fun. It was fine. I almost got stuck on the sand because I drove onto the beach, and I almost got stuck. I had to spend a few minutes getting out of it, but so from there I cruised on over to Texas. I ended up at this little I think that was the first night I ended up at an RV park, and it was like a state park, and so you're supposed to pay, but I would cruise up late because I never knew where I was staying. And I would cruise up late, and the office would always be closed, and there would never be anybody there. And I would just park, and I just needed a space to park, and I'd park and spend the night, and then I'd take off in the morning. And so from there, I went to Galveston, and Galveston was a really cool little town. A lot of buildings there in the 1800s that were built, that are still that sort of architecture. It was really beautiful. And then. And of course, there's tens of thousands of people coming in, immigrants over the years that have been coming into Galveston. So there's a lot of history there, and it was very cool. And the next day, I cruised over to. I'm trying to debate if I should tell you guys like everything. I don't think I will because, well, I have to be somewhere soon-ish, and I'll keep this a half an hour. That way, I have some more stories to tell you. So from Galveston, I cruised up to Houston, and Houston, very much enjoyed. I went to the Houston Science Museum, Houston. It was very cool. It was the best museum I've been to. I haven't been to a ton of museums, but it for sure was the best one. And they had on exhibit this the Body Works. I don't know if any of you guys have been there or seen it, but it's crazy, man. They take cadavers, formerly known as people, so dead bodies, and these bodies have been, stripped of the skin, and which is crazy. The person who figured out to do this, I was joking around. I was like, you can only imagine the conversation that this man had with his wife. He was probably like, "Honey, I have a really great idea." And what's that, Larry? And he's like, I want to, I want to capture the human body in all of its glory and keep it like that. Oh, that's great. How are you going to do that? And it's like, I'm going to take somebody's dead body. I'm going to skin them alive. I'm going to skin them. And then it was just crazy. So look it up if you've never seen it. Body Works. And it's just the body. And these are real people who died and donated their bodies to science. And it was nuts. There was bodies. I'm doing a horrible job of explaining it, but just there's a human body there, and you see everything, all the muscles, all the ligaments, all the bones, and it's all, what the fuck is the word? It's just all there. And it was crazy to see. You'd see everything from an adult human to the a 5-week-old infant, and even at 7 weeks old, like you can see 5 fingers and 5 toes, and it truly blew my mind. I was like, I can't believe this is how we all start, at one cell that divides into 2. It was wow, the lighting just got really terrible. It really was it just reminded me of the absolute miracle of life, and how from 1 cell to 2, here we are. Here's me here I am talking into your little ears through a microphone and doing a podcast. It was spectacular to see, and it was everything, like I said, from 5 weeks up to a 9-month-old baby, and obviously these babies had died, which is tragic and sad, but because I even asked them, I was like, "Are these real?" And they're like, "Yep." And yeah, it was just really something to see. It was crazy. It really was. It was humbling, and like I said, the miracle that we all come from. From 1 cell to 2, from 2 to 4, from 4 to 8, and before you know it, here we are. So, life's a miracle, folks. In case you forgot. So yeah, I'm gonna keep it at that for now. That way I can keep sharing the stories with you throughout the weeks or the days, whatever. Great to be back, folks. Great to be back. I'm going to keep sharing stories with you guys, obviously on social media and back to the podcast on here and back on Patreon as well. If you guys would like to get exclusive access to the podcast on there, I do an episode every Saturday as well. So you can head over to patreon.com/Trevor Ohlsen and you can sign up, not only gain access to the podcast, but you can get a bunch of cool shit as well. So it's good to be back. Thank you guys for listening. You guys keep moving forward. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and we will see you on Saturday.